So, what's up, people? Welcome to Super Sick Media. This is part one of my E3 discussion. But before we get started, I'd just like to apologize for, a lack of quality. I tend to stutter even when I script my own videos, and since I didn't script this at all, and I just wanted it to be just a discussion, I'd stutter a lot. There's a lot of awkward moments, and I talk really fast and sort of slur words together. So I apologize for that if I'm hard to understand. Just let me know in the comment section down below if you want more content like this, though, and I will try to improve it and make some more long form content. Keep in mind, you don't have to watch it, you can just listen to it in the background. I just put gameplay over it. I originally did have footage, vlog style recording, but it was low quality due to the lighting and the way the camera handles low light, so it was a little grainy. And I've released videos like that in the past, but I honestly do not like releasing videos like that. So I'll try better next time. I'm not sure if part two is going to be vlog style or if I'm just going to do it like this, audio, and have gameplay in the background. But here's part one. I hope you enjoy, and I've rambled on long enough, so see ya. I know this is late, but I wanted to do a E3 impressions video. I watched all the press conferences live, and I really wanted to talk about them, but I didn't make a video about them, Can't really explain why, but I didn't, but I'm doing it now. Better late than never. And I actually tried to record this once, and the first time my camera died, so I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna do it completely over again. And I'm going to break it up in parts this time. Alright? So this video I'm going to talk about Bethesda, EA, and Ubisoft, which are all the third party publishers that had conferences. And then the next video I'll do Sony and Microsoft. And I'll talk about Nintendo too, but they didn't have a press conference. And as far as the PC gaming show is concerned, I may make a video about that at another time, but I don't really feel that I need to mention them in these two videos quite yet. Although their show was a lot better this year, I've heard, than last year, but I didn't actually watch it because I didn't want to bother, because last year's was absolutely awful. I felt like it was wasting my time, but I heard that this year's was a lot better. They had more to show, and there was an excited lady who really enjoyed talking about her graphics card. So, I'll check that out later. But for now, we're going to be talking about EA. They had their press conference first on Sunday. It was EA Play. It was still around the same area as E3, but it was kind of their own event, and they were allowing the public to come in and try out their games. And I had high hopes for this. I really did. I wanted EA to come out with, swinging and prove that they weren't the most out of touch, worst video game publisher out there. Even though, I'm not one who says that. I don't get on the EA hate train, but their press conference this year was not that good. It hasn't been for the last few years. We all know they're going to have a sports segment. That's fine, but they need to dwindle that down to a reasonable amount, because we know what's in these sports games. We know that the changes are incremental concerning these sports games. They're not monumental, so you don't need to spend 20 minutes on these sports games. It doesn't make sense. It really just does not make sense. I know it's for investors, but what's the point in having this EA Play thing where you allow the public to come in to your conference and do have this big extravagant show, and then you do something like this? It was really weird. And they talked about esports a lot for some reason, as if everyone there was so excited about that. And I understand a lot of people watch it, but why? I just, it was really confusing. It was just confusing. They did a lot of confusing things, and I'll get to the biggest disappointment and point of confusion at this conference later. But right now, the first thing they talked about was Titanfall 2. That's coming to the PS4. They made sure we were aware of that, as well as the fact that it will have a single player campaign, which was something that a lot of the players complained about for the first one. You had a lot of drop off. This one will probably have more content, more Titans, different things like that. And judging from the trailer, they're going full on like Gundam, almost like Gundam, like laser beams and stuff in this one. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that. It's coming to PS4, so keep an eye out for that. I think it's coming around this October or something like that. October 21st, I believe, was the release date for this game. So, you know, if you're excited about that. They talked about Mass Effect Andromeda, but didn't really show much. Very little of this game was shown, and I was very surprised. From what they did show, it looked great. We know it's running in Frostbite. It looked very Mass Effect, but you know, I was surprised they didn't have a big gameplay demo. It was really strange, and I think they announced it was coming out this year. So why wasn't there a big demo for it? Yeah, that was, the more I think about it, the stranger it gets. All right, next is where they started moving into the sports. Talked about Madden. For some reason, they talked about the whole competitive aspect, the esports, really heavily. How they're going to be doing different events, sponsoring events, partnering with other people to hold events for Madden and their other games on a competitive level, which is fine, but you know, why spend this much time on it, make such a big deal out of it? FIFA, they're going to have a single player campaign similar to the way 2K now has a single player sort of story. So that's interesting, taking a book out of 2K's book with that one. No NBA Live this year because, you know, last year's was honestly pretty terrible. You know, I don't know if they'll ever come out with a good NBA Live game again, but for now it's going on hiatus once again. They also talked about Fee, which is a small indie game similar to Unravel last year. It's really cool that EA does this with these new games. Very interesting indie ideas that, you know, are really exciting, new, fresh. It looked nice. You play as this little creature and you're in this forest and all the animals communicate with music. You unlock songs to communicate and do different things, I guess different abilities. And there's these antagonists called the Silent Ones who look very humanoid, so take that as you will. Probably some sort of, you know, message that the developer's trying to get across. But it looks fun. It looks like it's going to be a fun game. You know, it has sort of a low poly, you know, cute sort of art style to it. So it looks nice. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. Now we know that Disney has partnered with EA to be the exclusive developer and publisher of Star Wars games. And we know that pretty much all of their, you know, big studios are working on Star Wars titles, which is exciting, but they couldn't show us any of it. That was crazy. They're like, we're working on all of these Star Wars games, but we can't show you anything. So, fine, EA. Fine. That's fine. You know, we got to see a little snippet of whatever Amy Hennig and Visceral were working on. I'm sure that's going to be a great game. What we saw looked great. It said it was running in engine, but doesn't mean it was actual gameplay. Although Battlefront looks great running in Frostbite, I'm sure this is going to look great. So, you know, it's going to be a good game, I'm sure. Amy Hennig, famous from Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. And those are revered games, so I'm sure that this game will be fantastic as far as the story is concerned and as far as gameplay is concerned. We also know that Battlefront 2 is coming out next year. They confirmed that. And also that they are listening to the community, the feedback from the players. You know, people were complaining there's the lack of depth in the progression system, the lack of other eras besides the original trilogy or the Galactic Civil War, as some may know it as. So they confirmed there will be other eras. There'll be content from the new films. And I hope there'll be content from the Clone Wars as well, because those, even if the movies weren't good, the era can provide a lot of interesting and cool gameplay. So I hope they do that. They probably won't. But, you know, I hope they will. I hope there will be space battles. I want land to space battles. That will be amazing. And I don't like that the vehicles are all like pickups, like instead of you getting in the vehicle. I don't like that. And I don't understand why they were so stringent on sticking to canon and things in the Star Wars universe on certain aspects, and on other aspects they were just like, nope, well you can do whatever you want. But then they're like, well, we're not going to give the rebels vehicles because they didn't have that in the movies. There were no rebel tanks or anything like that, but we're going to give the Empire walkers and all this crazy stuff. But the rebels, no, they didn't have any of that in the movies. But we're also going to let you fight between Han Solo and Boba Fett, and they're gonna fight each other on Hoth or on some other planet other than in the movies. That's not canon either, but they let you do that. So I just don't understand that. I hope with this new game, you want to be as faithful as you possibly can, but you don't. This is a multiplayer game where there's no real story involved. So why can't you have the freedom to make these choices? So because the original Battlefront games, they had vehicles on both sides. It was fun. It was relatively balanced in that manner. So why can't you do that for Battlefront? But anyways, Respawn Entertainment is also working on a Star Wars game. They made Titanfall, and judging from what we were seeing, is going to be Jedi or lightsaber users in the game. They confirmed it was a third-person action game, but they were showing people in mocap suits fighting with lightsabers. So I'm assuming that it's some sort of Jedi game. So I'm excited to see what that is. And there's also a VR Battlefront experience coming out, which I'll talk about more later because that was revealed officially during the Sony conference, but we got a glimpse of that in the EA conference. Last thing at their conference was Battlefield 1, which it's interesting that they're going to Battlefield. It's interesting that the game is called Battlefield 1 instead of Battlefield 5, given that in the main series it's the 5th installment. But since I guess there really was no game called Battlefield 1, then they went there and it's set in World War 1. So I guess it sort of works, and the game visually looks great, and I'm sure a lot of people are excited about this game. So yeah, it looks really cool. It looks like basically a Michael Bay film, but it looks like a World War 1 Michael Bay style basically. So yeah, it looks fantastic. Next big conference was Bethesda. It was highly anticipated. People didn't know what they would have to show. Last year it just seemed like they had all the cards lined up. That's why they had their conference last year. They decided to do it again this year. Not as many big announcements this year, but it was still a decent conference. There was some lulls in there, when they talked about Elder Scrolls Online and stuff like that, and their card game. But overall, it was pretty decent. We got some surprises. I'm not nothing there excited me, but there was some surprises in there for sure. So the hype can override whether or not I'm actually interested in these games, to be honest, when it comes to E3. So they revealed some Fallout 4 DLC, mods coming to the PS4 later, full virtual reality experiences, Quake Champions, so a new installment of Quake, as well as a Skyrim remaster, HD remaster for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that. Judging from what they showed, there was a great improvement in the visuals of the game. Still doesn't look as good as a lot of other games out there, but people really don't expect that for Bethesda. But hopefully their next games will look more like modern games, and they don't just develop their games in such a bottle next time, and they play other people's games, get a look at them and see what they're doing. And hopefully it'll be less buggy, because that's a big complaint people have about their games as well. Big reveal was that there will be a new Prey game. It looked really weird, very strange trailer. There's also going to be, they focused heavily on Dishonored 2, which is a first-person stealth game. The first one was pretty well received, And there's a lot of excitement around this one, so I'm interested to see how this one does financially, how people receive it critically, and we'll see how that one does as well. Ubisoft's conference was a big one. And by big, I mean they had a lot to show, but the conference was way too long. It was 2 hours long, okay? A Ubisoft conference. And, you know, they had a decent amount of games to show. They had a lot of stuff to show, but not nearly enough to warrant the length of this conference. The reason why this conference was so long was because they would, you know, sit down like it was some daytime talk show and talk, you know, forever about basically stuff they've already mentioned. So like they announced, for example, they announced a Star Trek game. A guy is in. They show a video of you know, Star Trek. I guess cast talking about the game, and they're just playing it, and they show a video of them talking about the Star Trek game, and it's a virtual reality experience and all this. And then they have someone from the video they just showed come out, sit on a couch and talk about and basically rehash what they just said in the video. And that just did not make any sense to me whatsoever. They came out with Just Dance 2017, which, you know, they have to come out with that. It's a big seller for them. A lot of people like it. It's a good party game, so, you know, why not? The dance was crazy though. I mean, if you saw it, it was insane. They had Ghost Recon Wildlands. They did some really nerdy live action role playing, and then during that gameplay, where, you know, they had the fake script and all that, and they were really getting into their roles. Yeah, you know, some people really do play like that. Not very many, but some people really do play their games like that. So I'm sure that the people who really like to get into their roles like that will really enjoy that demo and will enjoy this game. They had a long gameplay demo for South Park, Fractured Butthole. A lot of people are excited about that. You know, South Park. So if you know about South Park, you pretty much know what this game is like, except you play it. And it was pretty much a big spoof about Captain America, or basically just superhero comic booky stuff, but in a very South Park way. So if you know what that's about, then you know what that's about. They had the Division segment. They showed a trailer for some DLC that's coming out. Didn't really show much. It was a guy surviving. He gets trapped. He gets saved by like his squad mates or whatever. It was an interesting cinematic, but I don't really know what it means as far as gameplay is concerned. You can just assume it's going to be some sort of survival aspect to the game. I don't know. A long VR Eagle Flight demo that didn't really need to be as long as it was. It showed a competitive aspect to it, but it was honestly very tiresome, and I got bored of watching them play this game. And it just has to go. It just all has to do with the pacing of this conference. Like, what were they thinking? It was really strange. Very strange conference. I'm sure the game will be fun enough, but it's not going to be like this huge, you know, massive experience in virtual reality system seller thing, I don't think. But it looks fun enough. Then they talked about the Star Trek Bridge Crew, which I'm not going to talk about again, because that, you know, I talked about that earlier. It looks like it'll be enjoyable. Graphically, it looks really rough, really basic, but the game's going to be great. It's an early VR title. Can't expect those to really look, none of them really look that good anyway, at least not yet. But, you know, I'm sure they will in the future. They'll get better and better. Hardware will get more and more powerful and be able to support this better. Optimization will get better. So, you know, it's just a matter of time. These are Gen 1 systems, so it'll get better. They talked about the highly anticipated For Honor, which is like this like sword fighting. It reminds me of it's like a medieval Battlefront is what it looks like. They demonstrated a single player campaign. They had some like cinematic of like why they're fighting. There's some crazy antagonist that's trying to keep the world just fighting each other. So that the story looks kind of interesting. The demo was really kind of boring, to be honest, and it just had to do with pacing. Things were dragging on. We wanted this conference to end. I really wanted it to end. It was just going on too long. They had a crossover between, if you'd heard of Far Cry Blood Dragon and Trials Fusion. They combined the two, just like last year. They had some strange, cat unicorn crossover thing with Trials. This year it's Blood Dragon. They had a crazy presentation. They did like an 80s action figure commercials for the game, and then they announced it was out now. So similar to last year, it was pretty entertaining. It was actually one of the better parts of the conference because they got it out of the way. There's a sequel to Grow Home was announced, called Grow Up. It's going to be like, I guess, more open, more about you exploring the planet you're on, and more freedom, things like that. So the first one was fun to play. I enjoyed it. This one will probably be a good short experience for you if you've enjoyed that game. So we'll see about that as well. Showed more of Watch Dogs 2. A big complaint of the first one was that people didn't like the protagonist. There was a lot of visual downgrades, a lot of potential. Interactions with the AI weren't quite what they demonstrated. There was like no option. It was hard to like be like this hero, like vigilante character when you were going around doing like really all these terrible things. You're supposedly this vigilante. You're supposed to be a good guy, but you didn't really feel like you related to this character. No one liked him. It wasn't very likable, and yeah, the game was not what many people expected it to be. This one is kind of going in the other direction, making the characters much younger. Set in San Francisco. They're hackers, they're giving that personality where they cause mischief, stuff like that. So I guess it gives the player more agency to just do whatever they want, since they don't feel like they're trying to be this vigilante. Whatever. I'm sure this one will be better than the first one. A lot of people were excited about it. The trailer they showed at the end was really cool for it. It was really, really cool, well put together trailer. It was like all over the place, hacking and everything. But yeah, we'll see about how that one does as well. Comes out this year. They showed Steep. I was surprised they ended on this. It was Ubisoft likes to do their final big reveal of a new IP in all their conferences, and this one looked cool. I liked it. It's an extreme sports game, snowboarding, skiing. The squirrel suit. The flying suit. Down mountains. It looked crazy. There's just all this stuff in it, and I'm like, well, it was really sort of hard to grasp what this was. It's like snow extreme, like winter extreme sports simulator, basically, where you have all of these in one game. This is like a robust camera system and a system to track your line down the slope, down the mountains. There's challenges. It's a big open world. Seamless multiplayer type game, what Ubisoft has basically been pushing towards since the beginning of this generation. It looks interesting. I'm actually sort of excited about it. It's supposed to come out this year. I'm wondering if this game will do well, if there's a demand for an extreme sports games like this, because not many of these have come out lately. The last one that came out was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, and that one was not good at all. The game was not good. People did not like it. I kind of knew from the moment I saw that game that it was just there's something wrong with this game. It just did not look like it was going to be good or anywhere near as good as any of the previous Pro Skater games. So yeah, overall, out of these 3 press conferences, Ubisoft had the most to show, but it wasn't paced well. And there was just so many problems with their conference. Overall, the third parties this year, the conferences were lackluster. They weren't nearly as good as last year. They weren't quite as fun. But, that happens sometimes. It wasn't the worst, wasn't the best. And that's pretty much it for part 1 of the E3 press conferences reaction or impressions, review, whatever you want to call it, discussion. So yes, keep a lookout for part 2, where I'll be talking about Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo and what they have shown, what they've done, and that's where it really got good. That's where E3 started picking up, when the Microsoft press conference happened. You start hearing exciting stuff all the way to the Sony press conference. It started getting better and better. And Nintendo surprised me with what they showed with Legend of Zelda. So I'll talk about that more in depth in the next video. But yeah, that's it for today. That's it for this video. If you liked it, the like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How did you think? What did you think about these games, these conferences? Did you like it? Did you watch E3 live? Did you watch videos later? Or maybe you didn't watch any of them at all? Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe for more content like this if you're new to the channel. And follow me on Twitter so I can keep you up to date with my uploads. Stay super, and I will see you in the next video.